leave me alone. I mean, some sweaty fat guy blows his head off.
Why did you lie to the police?
I didn't.
Well, it says here in this paper that you found Jerome Clifford dead.
I did.
Susan Sarandon finds herself with a young client and a lot of danger in The Client, one of 5 new movies we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert. Also coming up, a comedy starring Nicolas Cage and Rosie Perez, and a comeback for the great movie dog Lassie. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune, and our first film is The Client, and I must say that for a thriller, I found this film awfully dull. First of all, it has a child for the protagonist. He witnesses a suicide of a mob lawyer, and right away I knew that nothing bad was going to happen to this kid, so no real tension there. And then there's the kid's attorney, Susan Sarandon, playing the typically plucky, independent lawyer. In the case of her dreams, keeping authorities from interrogating the boy.
You boys attempted to interrogate a child outside the presence of his mother without her consent. He specifically asked you if he needed a lawyer, and you said no, stating as one of your reasons the idea that lawyers are a pain in the ass. I'd like to confer with my client and meet with you people in my office tomorrow around, say, 3 o'clock. And if I need anything from you boys, like the truth, well, I expect to get it.
Out to pressure the kid is Tommy Lee Jones as a federal prosecutor based in New Orleans. I think Jones's performance is a little over the top with his patented verbal gimmicks.
Haven't we played enough games here? Your Honor, we are all searchers for the truth. A man has been murdered and another man lies dead by his own hand, yet this boy remains silent. What wanton hubris is this? Speak, Charles, now. Lying lips or an abomination to the Lord.
The real bad guys in the film are just generic mob hitmen led by Anthony LaPaglia. They want to silence the kid, to kill him if need be, to keep him from talking to the police about the murder of a U.S. senator.
Hey!
And those action scenes are standard, too. I really thought this whole film was much ado about nothing. Jones and Sarandon's are all behavior, presenting sort of highlights from previous performances of theirs. Nothing specific in this picture. And again, you never really fear for the kid's life. Thumbs down for me on The Client.
Thumbs down for me, too, although I liked the first hour of the movie, I think, better than you did, because I thought that Brad Renfro, who plays that young boy, is a natural actor and very talented, and I liked his rapport with Sarandon, and I liked some of the minor characters as the people are being set up. But I think the problem with the Grisham story here is he's very good at creating characters and very bad at doing anything other than a very routine, recycled plot. I mean, one more movie where somebody is creeping around in the old boathouse, spying on the bad guys who are going to give away all their secrets and be overheard. That was just automatic pilot, and it really disappointed me that the last half of the movie lost it.
And boring bad guys. Nothing specific. Okay, next movie.
And our next movie is Lassie, which is not a remake of the classic Lassie Come Home from 1943, or any of the other Lassie movies for that matter, but more of a modern story involving a collie who is named Lassie because she is adopted by a family whose little daughter watches Lassie reruns on television and says, "This must be Lassie." The movie takes place mostly in Virginia, where Lassie and her new family come to live. The children's mother has died some time ago. Their father has remarried, and here he introduces his new wife to his first wife's father.
Well, I can't tell you how good it is to have these 2 youngsters back with me. Hey, what do we have here?
That's a new dog.
Oh, it's just a stray we picked up on the side of the road.
Just a stray? This is a beautiful dog.
That's Richard Farnsworth as the grandfather. The rebellious young son, played by Thomas Geary, is a city kid who digs rock and roll more than the countryside. But Lassie is a clever dog and knows how to lure him outdoors.
That was awesome! That was totally awesome! I'm not kidding you!
Meanwhile, the nasty rich kids next door take delight in scaring the family's flock of sheep with their noisy little all-terrain vehicles. I have the same problem with Lassie that I have with a lot of animal pictures, and that's that the animals are always the smartest characters in these movies. The people in these films never seem to catch on that when Lassie barks, she's really trying to tell them something important and doesn't just want to go outdoors. But I guess there wouldn't be a movie if Lassie wasn't smart. And actually, this is a very warm-hearted film that does deal with family issues such as the problem the kids, and especially the boy, have in accepting their new stepmother. I like the movie enough to give it thumbs up, and I even forgive it for the big manipulative scene at the end where it looks like poor Lassie is drowned while saving a life.
I liked it probably more than you. I did like it more than you. And yes, parents should be aware they're going to be called on by their little ones to say, don't worry, honey, Lassie's going to be okay.
That's right.
That's the only thing I didn't like. I thought that this picture really was also in love with the outdoors and with the country life. And you know, as they were showing these landscape shots and all that, didn't you as a city kid, because I certainly did, say, come on, that's a great life out there.
Gee, that's really wonderful how this poor family with an unemployed father is able to live on this $10 million spread. That was nice.
In Virginia.
Now, one weak point you have to admit, Gene, the bad people next door, Frederick Forrest and his two mean little kids, are there simply to be the bad people next door. They just act bad all the time.
But it was
just seem motivated.
Well, they're rich. They're rich. They're not salt of the earth. Absolutely. You know that rich people are bad.
Despite everything, I enjoyed it. Coming up next, a cop gives a waitress a $2 million tip. It's based on a true story. It could happen to you.
If this ticket wins, I'll come back tomorrow and split the proceeds. And if it doesn't, I'll still come back and leave you a tip. What do you think?
Those numbers again are 6, 12, 16, 26, 64, 84. When we return, sports with Larry Lipton.
That's unbelievable.
Nicolas Cage and his wife, Rosie Perez, win the New York lottery, but that's just the start of their problems, and it could happen to you. A boring title, but a marvelous, most entertaining movie that I think would be a lot bigger hit with its original title, which sums up its fresh story. This picture was originally called, get this, Cop Gives Waitress $2 million Tip. Wouldn't you want to go to see a picture like that? Why did they put the title It Could Happen to You on it? Change the title now, make pots of money. The cop is played by Nicolas Cage, one of our best young actors, and he and his wife, Rosie Perez, do hit the lottery together. Just one problem. He said he'd split the ticket with a waitress when he didn't have tip money for her. His wife is furious, as only Rosie Perez can get.
Uriel, $2 million is still an enormous amount of money.
You should be committed to an insane asylum for the rest of your natural life.
The waitress is played by Bridget Fonda, a good young actress, and she's stunned at what this honest cop tells her.
The lottery. The New York State, the lottery, the actual lottery, New York State lottery, $4 million.
Yes, $4 million is our share. Happened last night. Well, it would have been more, except a bowling team from Albany called in. They took about $9 million out of the pot, but we won.
And you're telling me that you're actually going to split it with me?
A promise is a promise.
Naturally, she and the cop do hit it off.
Most people would have done the same.
Nobody would have done the same. Are you kidding? What you did was like a fairy tale.
Everything about this story and these characters is fresh, his honesty, her decency, and they do spend an enchanted night together at the Plaza Hotel.
There's really a robe in there?
Terry cloth. Nice. Really nice. It's, for sale. You could buy it for like $100 or something. I think it's $100, yeah.
I'll do it.
Oh, this is a wonderful story, and I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, directed by Andrew Bergman. The chemistry between Fonda and Cage is real, and Rosie Perez provides marvelous comedy just like she did in White Men Can't Jump. It Could Happen to You is one of the best romantic comedies in recent years that I've seen.
I liked it a whole lot, too. And, you know, Andrew Bergman is also the man who made The Freshman.
Yes.
And he starred Nicolas Cage. They worked together in Honeymoon in Vegas with the parachuting Elvis impersonators. This movie is a little more human nature and a little less broad-scale comedy, but it has some big laughs and it has a lot of truth in it. And you're right about Rosie Perez. Now, she's been criticized for always giving the same performance, but on the other hand, I always like the performance when she gives it, and here she is just fabulous in that scene where she finds out she won the lottery. I thought she was going to explode.
We just saw a movie with two big stars where I Love Trouble.
Yeah. Nick Nolte.
Nick Nolte, Julia Roberts. They didn't have any chemistry at all. You want to see chemistry in a movie. This is a great matched pair, Nicolas Cage and Bridget Fonda.
Well, but there's also chemistry all the way around because Perez has chemistry with everybody.
I'm telling you that Cage is an actor. I love him in Red Rock West. It's one of my favorite movies of the year. This is also one of my favorite movies of the year. He's a big talent.
Okay, so it's a lot of fun. and it's called, what was the name of that title again?
It Could Happen to You.
It Could Happen to You. Why didn't they call it Cop Gives Waitress $2 Million Tip? Now that was a title. It could happen to you. When we come back, a kid decides to dump his old parents and go looking for some new ones in North.
See this rash? You see it? Him mole men. There's no ointment for
Yeah,
this.
so let me tell you,
Nothing.
let me remind you who you're talking to. Only this year's recipient of the coveted Mr. Inseam Award. Well, that shut him up.
A boy played by Elijah Wood gets fed up with his folks in that scene from North and decides that since they don't pay attention to him, he will divorce them and go looking for a new set of parents. And that's the setup for one of the most thoroughly hateful movies of recent years, a movie that makes me cringe even when I'm sitting here thinking about it. Look at this scene, for example, where young North is in court trying to dump his parents who are comatose with shock.
And there's nothing left for me to do but make my judgment. And in my judgment, any folks who would sleep through a trial like this are folks who don't deserve to have a wonderful, upstanding son like North.
Then there's a series of auditions as would-be parents from around the country try out for the role of North's new mom and dad. Dan Aykroyd and Reba McEntire are a couple of absurd Texans who want to adopt him.
We had a son who was trampled by a ton of longhorns, but you're here cutes to fill his boots as flat as they may be.
Next stop, the Hawaiian Islands, where we get some amazingly tasteless dialogue about why these two people don't have children.
Hawaii is a lush and fertile land. In fact, there's only one barren area on all of our islands. Unfortunately, it's Mrs. Holmes.
A mysterious character keeps turning up on North's travels. He's played by Bruce Willis as an Easter bunny, a Western ranch hand, a beachcomber, and a Federal Express driver who gets in lots of product plugs.
What are some kind of guardian angel?
Well, I guess you can say that. Because in a manner of speaking, we at Federal Express feel that we are guardians. Guardians of your most important packages and priority communique.
I hated this movie as much as any movie we've ever reviewed in the 19 years we've been doing this show. I hated it because of the premise, which seemed shockingly cold-hearted, and because this premise is being suggested to kids as children's entertainment, and because everybody in the movie was vulgar and stupid, and because the jokes weren't funny, and because most of the characters were obnoxious, and because of the phony attempt to add a little pseudo-hip philosophy with a Bruce Willis character. Now, I think Elijah Wood is a fine young actor, and of course, Rob Reiner, the director, has made one terrific movie after another, so I would prefer to consider North as just a very unfortunate aberration in these otherwise admirable careers.
Well, I mean, I think you got to hold Rob Reiner's feet to the fire here. I mean, he's the guy in charge. He's saying that this is entertainment. It's deplorable. I mean, there isn't a gag that works. You couldn't write worse jokes if I told you to write worse jokes.
And of course, you could always...
The ethnic stereotyping is appalling.
Yes.
It's embarrassing. You feel unclean as you're sitting there. Mm-hmm. It's junk. First-class junk.
And then the idea that kids might be lured in by television ads to see this movie about a little child who, you know, throws away his parents and goes shopping for a new set. It's really...
Any subject could be done well. This is just trash, Roger.
Okay. Coming up next, American yuppies in the early 80s in Spain. They're funny, naive, and dangerous. Barcelona is next.
Our next film is called Barcelona, and this is a whimsical treat from writer-director Whit Stillman, who with his previous cult hit Metropolitan now has a corner on the WASP comedy of manners. He's the WASP Woody Allen. The only wrinkle with Barcelona is that these young WASPs are setting up and enforcing American foreign policy. The time is the early 80s, the place Barcelona, and while some Spanish activists want to throw out the Yankees, a young naval officer and his cousin, a top salesman for an American corporation, are competing for beautiful Spanish women.
Have you noticed the way he's always making little digs at my intelligence?
No.
You see, in the U.S., we take these tests called college boards to see whether we go to a university that's selective, highly selective, or not at all selective, which is where I went. My board scores were very bad.
But you seem very intelligent for an American.
Well, I'm not. The worst part was Ted getting 800 boards. Perfect scores. But since then, I've met other people with 800 boards, and they don't seem particularly intelligent either.
So Ted is very smart.
Well, he tests well.
Many of the laughs in Whit Stillman's films revolve around his character's arch way of speaking. They talk jargon while the real world is vibrating around them.
I think it's true that the United States revolution is over. I don't go to bed with just anyone anymore. I have to be attracted to them sexually.
But I always thought that women had to have some kind of profound emotional bond with a man. That a secure romantic relationship before they became interested in a relation of that kind.
Oh, no.
What's really funny about these characters is that they don't really listen to what they're saying, a result of having led sheltered lives, and yet we do develop an affection for them. They're not mean, and they do mean well. They're just out of touch. And Barcelona serves as a gentle reminder that there's a whole lot more to the world than Americans typically acknowledge. It's a fresh and funny film full of attractive characters, the Spanish women in particular. I enjoyed it a lot.
And you know, one of those Spanish women is played by Mira Sorvino, who is Paul Sorvino's daughter, and is very charming. And the movie is charming.
Yes.
And the movie is well written. Whit Stillman writes dialogue in a satiric way. It's not, you know, so many movies the dialogue is just flat because it's only an engine to keep the plot chugging along. Here, we're supposed to stop and listen to the way these people express themselves. For example, the naval officer is offended when he sees a graffiti that says that the Yankee fleet is a bunch of fascists. He says, I want you to know that this men wearing this uniform defended Europe against fascism. And he talks like that in a very serious way. And his friend, his cousin, is talking about business in the same way, as if somehow selling these motors that he has to the Spanish is about the same thing as fighting fascism. And they're so serious about this that it's funny and ironic and endearing, too.
Good film. When we come back, Roger's video pick of the week. 3 brand new buried treasures to recommend.
They're out there. They're everywhere.
Siskel and Ebert's video pick of the week, brought to you by Orville Redenbacher, the first and last name in popcorn.
Every once in a while, a good movie gets overlooked at the box office, but when it comes around on video, you get another chance to see it, and there are 3 wonderful movies like that just entering the video stores right now, and I'd like to recommend them as my personal favorites. One is Household Saints, the story of 3 generations in an Italian-American family, leading up to an unforgettable character played by Lily Taylor here, who quite simply would like to be a saint.
And you? No doubt you have plans of your own.
No, not me.
Oh, come on now. It's my business to read human nature. The minute I saw you at that discussion group, I said, now there's a girl who knows what she wants, and I get it.
I wish I did.
Another buried treasure, Body Snatchers by Abel Ferrara, the 3rd film version of this classic story about invasion by the pod people, and one of the scariest, with Gabrielle Anwar here as a young woman who believes her parents may have become alien beings.
Shut up! It's not my father! What do you mean? It's not him! Shut up!
Just back up. Back up. Put it away. Put it away.
And my 3rd buried treasure is a real sleeper, but look for it because it's worth it. It's called My Neighbor Totoro, and it's an animated film from Japan, in English, about some small children who make a friend of the mysterious creature who lives near them in the forest. So, Household Saints, Body Snatchers, and My Neighbor Totoro, my video picks of the week. Just because they weren't big box office hits doesn't mean they aren't entertaining. Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed on this show. 2 thumbs down for The Client, despite some excellent performances. The setup is good, but then the story loses track of the people and plugs in formula melodrama instead. 2 thumbs up for Lassie. Sure, it was corny, but we liked it. 2 big thumbs up for It Could Happen to You, with terrific comedy performances by Nicolas Cage, Rosie Perez, and Bridget Fonda in the story of a lottery ticket that changes everyone's lives. It opens in theaters everywhere next week. 2 walloping thumbs down for North, the distasteful story of a little boy who goes shopping for new parents. Gene and I had a little contest to see which one of us hated this movie the most.
There was a tie.
And finally, 2 thumbs up for Whit Stillman's Barcelona, especially for its witty dialogue and sophisticated situations as 2 young Americans learn about life, love, and Spain. It opens next week in New York and Los Angeles and goes out wider in the month of August.
Just a little point about Lassie, which I like very much. In the movie, and in a lot of kids' movies, it's the dad who doesn't want the dog, the mean dad. Beethoven, remember, Charles Grodin didn't want the dog. Here, the dad doesn't want the dog. In real life, it's the dads who do want the dog, the moms who don't want the dog, because the moms are going to have to do all the work for it.
This sounds like it might have just a touch of autobiography to it.
Just might be. but not a collie in our house. That's it for this week. Next week, we'll be back with a special show on the career of Tommy Lee Jones, the Oscar-winning actor who has 5 films out this year alone. Tommy Lee Jones, the smartest tough guy in Hollywood and one of the busiest, too. That's next week. Until then, the balcony is closed.
It's America's favorite Jelly Bean Jelly Belly, now in new 20 and 40 flavor gift boxes. The original gourmet Jelly Bean Jelly Belly. St. Ives Swiss Formula Peaches and Cream Facial Beauty Wash for a peaches and cream complexion at St. Ives Swiss Formula, naturally. If you'd like to save up to 50% on your contact lenses, eyeglasses, and eye exams, call for a free Lens Express catalog and find out how you can start saving right away. Bigfoot Pizza from Pizza Hut, only $10.99 for the largest single pizza you can have delivered. Bigfoot Pizza, a legendary value.